Hello, and welcome to Senior Solutions, where we bring you topics impacting seniors and their families. I'm your host, Mindy Felinton, and I'm joined today by Laura Feldman, who's the grassroots manager for the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare.
Bravo, you said it correctly.
Thank you, that's a mouthful. And welcome, Laura. Thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the committee is and how they help people?
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure. The National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare, which is a mouthful, is a nonpartisan, issue-based membership organization. We have millions of members across the United States. And of course, our focus, as you can tell by the name, is Social Security and Medicare. And our goal is to preserve and protect the integrity of those programs. Now what that means is it does change over time, but these are programs that have been successful and are bedrock programs for this country. And ever since its beginning, there have been attacks and people who would like to see them go away. So,
how uncommon.
Yes, and actually we were founded by FDR's son, James Roosevelt, who understood way back when.
That was back in the 60s, right?
Well, it was after the 60s, but I'm thinking we're about 36 years old now. But when it was founded to preserve the integrity, and it's based on the issues that come up concerning these programs.
Well, when you say integrity, share with me a little bit about what that means.
I would love to. Let's speak of Social Security first. When I say the integrity of the program, Social Security was founded to be a safety net for the working Americans. And shortly thereafter, they added spouses, the disabled, children and families of workers. That's what it was intended to do. There are those who would like to see this program privatized. And rather than being a social insurance, which means it is for all workers and their families, it's not a personal savings account. So that's the foundation of it. That is how it has worked, by a large risk pool of people, by workers contributing. And I can tell you, you have to pay in 10 years or have 40 work credits to be eligible. That's what the program was intended to do. Now, there have been those that would like to see that changed. It's also an equal opportunity program. And by that I mean, it doesn't care if you're black or white, fat or skinny, ugly or pretty. If you've paid in, you are eligible to receive the benefits of Social Security. So there are those who would rather say, well, it's my money. Let me invest it how I want to see it, and then I can leave it for my heirs. Or there are those who would say, you don't need it because you're wealthy. But the beauty is it's equal. You pay in, and according to your whole work history, and people don't realize that, it's your whole work history. They throw away the lowest earning years, and they add up the longest and the highest earning years, and they use a formula to decide what is, or to calculate what is your rate of return on your investment. So it's very equal in that way. So let's say, Mindy, you're making thousands of dollars doing this program.
Fabulous.
I could tell. We don't want to say to you, hey, you know what? You've worked all your life, you've done all the right things, and now you've really hit it big. So we're going to give this money to someone else, give more to someone else. That's not the way it was founded. It was founded to be based on your own work history and that of your family. So that's some very important information.
Yes. Well, we hear a lot of misconceptions out in the streets about Social Security and Medicare, and I'm glad that you're going to be here today to straighten us all out and give us the real facts.
Well, the real fact is, one of the things you hear on the street is, it's going broke, we can't afford it. First of all, they say it's an entitlement. And I would like to clear that up.
Okay, please do. Tell us about what that means and clarify it.
To us at the National Committee and to most Americans, it is an earned benefit. You pay into it all of your working life. And many of us, including myself, worked starting at age 16. And I won't tell you how old I am now, but I'm still working, and it's been a long time. But I've paid in all of my working life, and I continue to pay in. And so to me, that is a contract between myself and the government saying, I'm going to pay in, and upon full age of retirement, which right now is about 66, going up to 67, I will be eligible to collect my benefit. So it is an earned benefit that I've paid into. And let me just clear up. There are people out there I know who think, well, there are those people who are ripping it off who didn't pay in. And that's not the case. You have to be a legal citizen, and you have to have paid in 10 years or 40 work credits. So that money is invested in government issue bonds. It accrues interest like any other bond, and it reaches maturity, and it is redeemable. And every worker has been paid out on time since 1935 to the present and into the future, their benefit calculated on their whole work history. Can I clear up another myth?
You may. Keep going.
If you have questions, jump in.
Okay,
I really love this. The other myth that we hear is that they've stolen the money, it's not there. And I know so many of your viewers out there believe that.
Yes.
The money is not stolen. The money is paid out immediately. When the younger workers or anybody who's working, including you and myself, that money goes out to pay current retirees. We pay current retirees, children of deceased workers, disabled workers, and their families. That is paid out. Once everyone is paid, what is left over is invested in government bonds. And those bonds are used to run the government. Now, what I want people to know is all bonds are used. It's not stolen. You buy a bond, a municipal bond, a state bond, any bond, they use the money. That's what bonds are. That's what banks do. You give money to the bank. It's your money. They use it to do all kinds of things, but when you withdraw it, it is yours. Social Security is the same. That money is used, and it is paid to the recipient. What is left over after the government has met its budget for the year is called the surplus, Social Security surplus. And there's over $2.7 trillion in the surplus as of today.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yes. Well, since most people don't think it's even going to be there, that's very good news.
Yes.
And one of the big myths is that it's going broke. We've all heard that. I just want to get this out there right
I'm so glad because
I know it'll next time.
I myself also have heard that, and I'm glad to know that when that day comes, when I want to get my check, that there's that surplus still there.
Well, it may not be the surplus, but it will be there. And here's how you can understand that. First of all, it's ridiculous to say, or a mistake to say, Social Security goes broke, because you always have workers paying into the system.
Right.
What would be an honest statement is to say, is it enough? That's an honest statement. And the actuaries, who are the statisticians who do the projections, and by the way, they'll be out with their new report this week, if not next week, because I know we're expecting to hear it any moment now. Last year, I'll have to say, the actuary said in the year 2033, we could only pay full benefits minus about 22%. So you'd be short 22, they're projecting 22%. So the real discussion should be, how do we make up that 22% by the year 2033? Now we can pay full benefits until then without doing anything. But that would be, I think that would be irresponsible. We have to look to the out years and say, how do we make up that 22 projected?
Right, projected.
It's projected. If the economy goes gangbusters, it would be less or maybe nothing. That's their dire prediction. So how do we make up 22%?
Good question, Laura.
No, I happen to have an answer.
I'm so glad. I'm voting for you for president.
No, thank you. There are many ways to do it, and that's where the discussion should be. One of the suggestions is that right now we pay into Social Security a maximum of $113,000. So in other words, if I were making $250,000, I would only pay into Social Security at up to $113,000, then I'd be done for the year. Some people make $113,000 a day, so they would pay in, and that's their maximum. So there is a movement to say, scrap the cap. Get rid of that $113,000. You could make it $250,000, paying in up to $200,000, or you could raise it even higher. And that would pretty much take care of the problem. Another thing you could do, if we, and it could be, we would, at the National Committee, we say, let's do a lot of little things that don't hurt so much. If you had a pathway to citizenship, they're talking with the immigration bill. If you had thousands, and maybe it's millions, I don't know how many, people who are being paid under the table, being paid over the table, paying into Social Security, you have more money coming in to beef up the reserves.
Sure.
That's another way that would be helpful.
Yes.
The way that nobody really wants to talk about is raise taxes.
Could you say that louder, please?
Where's my mic? Raise taxes. Nobody wants to say taxes today. They say raise revenue, but they don't say taxes. But if you raise that FICA tax, the money that you take out your monthly payment.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to hear about this.
Well, but if it were done very slowly, I mean, these are ideas that should be discussed, not in a full budget deal, not using Social Security to help offset the deficit, but talked about is what do we want to do with Social Security for the future to strengthen it, not weaken it. These are different ways that we can make sure by 2033 we don't have a shortfall. And if you did a little bit of each, people, it wouldn't be hurtful. Plus, if you start now, people would be eased into it.
Right.
You know,
Well,
it wouldn't happen overnight. You wouldn't all of a sudden raise taxes on FICA. But if you raise that FICA tax very slowly, maybe over 10 years, you could take care of all or part of that problem. So there are many other ways. There are a lot of state workers who don't pay in. There are a lot of state teachers who have their own pension fund rather than Social Security. We could talk about that. Mm-hmm. So it's not this horrible crisis that we hear about, and that's very misleading.
Well, that's good to know.
Well,
and I think go ahead.
I have to say, the reason there's a lot of rhetoric going on around it right now is in the president's proposed budget. There is a proposed change to Social Security, and it's called something called the chained CPI.
I think what we'll do when we come back from our break is go into that CPI discussion and then also get into a little bit more information about Medicare and what that is and how that can help our seniors and their families when we come back from our short break.
Sounds
so
like a plan.
We're going to take a short break right now, and we'll be right back.
It's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.
Welcome back to Senior Solutions, where we discuss topics impacting seniors and their families. I'm your host, Mindy Felinton. I'm joined today by Laura Feldman, who's the grassroots manager for the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare. And yes, I got that out. Thank you. Again, Laura, where we left off, we were getting ready to have you share some information about CPI and what that means and how that can impact our seniors and their families. And we're going to take it from that point.
Oh, I'm glad you were listening. It's scary sometimes to talk about this. It's a lot to take in. But in the president's proposed budget, there is a proposal to change the COLA. Now, if you were a senior like some of us, you would know what a COLA is.
Yes, well, in some circles, I actually am.
So I would like the audience, if there was anybody out there to tell me if they get too much of a COLA, I don't think you'd hear that. But the cost of living adjustment is a calculated formula that is figured in annually to decide if there's been inflation, what will the raise in Social Security be, if at all? And it's based on something called a market basket of goods. Without getting too technical, it's not that generous, but there's a proposal called a change CPI, which changes the way the COLA is calculated. And bottom line, it's a cut. It's less. And it's based on...
I think your microphone went bad again.
Oh, you said... I know, we don't want to hear it. But the truth is that's what it is. It's a way of calculating the cost of living by saying we could substitute that if you can't afford steak, you can buy hamburger. So it's not going to really hurt you. You'll just substitute something that's cheaper. So in the long run, it's less money. So we, at the National Committee to Preserve Social Security, would rather see Social Security strengthened, not weakened. But more importantly, Social Security does not contribute 1 penny to our deficit. Social Security pays for itself 100%, which is, we talk about big government. Social Security is big government. It runs on 1% or less administrative overhead. So, I mean, that's enormous. And it pays for itself. It doesn't get any better than that as far as programs go. So the fact that it doesn't contribute to the national debt, it pays for itself 100%. It's a safety net for millions of Americans. It is a program that is an earned benefit. We really should be talking about how can we strengthen this program, because Lord knows the younger generation isn't saving, and most of them don't have pensions. Pensions have gone away.
Yes, by the wayside.
By the wayside. So what do we have to fall back on? We have one program that's really worked, that has been a wonderful program both Democrats and Republicans love. So why we're looking at using it as a piggy bank is really a very political issue, but not necessarily sound judgment. And I'll end on that by saying, these actuaries who talk about the cost of everything, do they really know the value? And the value of Social Security, to our way of thinking, is that it's peace of mind for millions of Americans. And it is something we've paid into that we want to be able to count on.
Right.
And I do believe we can. We should be talking about how great this program is, not looking at how we can weaken it.
Sure. I mean, I see in my day-to-day practice, in my law practice, people coming in who I am helping, and they get Social Security, but for that, they would be, they're probably in a very difficult situation because of needing long-term care. But for that Social Security, they'd be in a worse situation. So it is peace of mind for many, many people.
And better than that. I can even say better than that. I see
top
people,
that one.
I'll top that one. I see people all the time who really, I don't know how they live on it. But I also see people, and I will put myself in that category because it is personal. I love my Social Security. I'm still working. I'm still paying in. But for me, it is my safety net that it gives me some leeway. It gives me breathing room. It gives me that extra something that really is very valuable to me in many ways. So it's not just for poor people, it's for middle class people, and it is for wealthy people, because all of us are one illness away, as you said,
Yes.
from becoming impoverished. And you can't count on your pension because they're going away, many of them. You can't always count on your savings and even your investments. My 401k became a 201k, you know.
Well, at least you still have the K.
I still have my K. But I knew my Social Security would be there, but I don't know what else will be there.
Yes.
When I
And
need
if we
it.
have time, we'll get into that long-term care component and Medicaid, and we'll talk about the differences between the Medicare and Medicaid.
Fine.
But before we move on to Medicare, because that's also something that I think is really important for people to hear about, the misconceptions about that as well, and what that does pay for, and how do we find a doctor that who will take Medicare. But how can people get involved to make sure that Social Security remains this wonderful opportunity?
That's the key, and I thank you for asking that, because, you know, most of us know how to complain, but do we know how to do anything about it?
Yes, how can we be proactive?
Well, my take on politicians are that they don't see the light until they feel the heat. So I would like to suggest to your viewers, and to, not just your viewers, to any American, my friends, my children who are very good at this, is to let your representative know what you want. You know, we are participants. I think we do wonderful things in this democracy. Everybody's down on our politicians, but we have to be their partners. We have to give them the kick in the rear, or at least the phone call, to say, you know, I'm concerned, or this is what is important to me. My Social Security is something I want to count on, and I want to count on you to stand for me when it comes to Social Security. This president's budget that wants to use that CPI isn't a good deal for me, and you don't have to vote for it. I would like to see them pick up the phone and call the local office. Those of us in Washington can visit. I don't know if your viewers know. You can go right down to Capitol Hill, to the Russell Building, any of the Cannon, the House or the Senate. Make an appointment and visit with your legislator. And if they're not available, if you have an appointment, you can meet with their caseworker who does Social Security or does Medicare. And they will count what it is you have to say. They will count your emails. They will count your letters. They will count your phone calls to say, I'm getting a lot of heat on this, or I'm getting a lot of opinions on this. The worst thing we can hear, we have lobbyists at the National Committee who are wonderful, and they go to the Hill regularly to meet with legislators. But the voters are the ones they really care about, because that means job assurance.
Well, this is true.
So, I heard the late, great Barbara Jordan. I don't know how many of your viewers remember her. She was a wonderful congresswoman from Texas. And in one of her speeches, she said, when I run for office, I run on my beliefs, what I believe, what I want to see happen. But once I'm elected, I work for you. So
Well
if
said.
we don't tell them what we want, they will do what they want.
Right, and it's so important because the seniors in our community across the nation rely on this Social Security.
Well-
and for that to be mitigated would be a horrible,
Well, the
horrible
seniors,
loss.
more importantly, have to do it for their children, because their children don't even think it's going to be there for them, because they have no clue how it works, and they feel like, oh, it's not going to be there for me anyway. So they're not paying attention. And what legislators love to do is pass a law today that will go into effect when they're out of office. So when I was ready to retire, I went, what do you mean I don't have to be 65? I have to be older than 65? Because they passed that in 1982, when I wasn't paying attention. So it's really, the seniors get it. I think seniors are our secret weapon. They know the importance of this program, whereas Their kids are busy. Their baby boomers are busy earning a living, raising a family, getting that job. They don't even think about retirement. But we know that when their time comes, this program will be more important than ever. Mm-hmm. So call, write, visit, join the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare. And the reason to do that is quite simply numbers. The numbers count. When we lobby on the Hill, when we go to the Hill with some of our volunteers, which we're going to be doing next week, and I'd love people to join me, when we go to the Hill and we say we have millions of members who support or are against this particular piece of legislation, that has a lot of clout as opposed to the individual. So join organizations that represent your thought, your point of view. Okay. And do it yourself.
All right, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Talk a little bit about Medicare and what that is. How does that help people?
Well, Medicare is health care for people who are 65 years of age or older. So again, you pay that FICA tax, and part of it goes to Medicare. And that part goes to Medicare A, which is the hospital part. Then there's Medicare B, which is the doctor part. And A and B are the original Medicare. So the doctor part means that when you go to the doctor, and by the way, you're automatically enrolled in Medicare if you've paid into it, but you have to let them know that you are turning 65. But if you haven't paid into it, at 65 you are eligible to enroll. So anybody who's 65 can be in the Medicare program. A hospital, B doctor. So when you go to the doctor, Medicare pays 80%. And that 80% is subsidized by the government. Okay? But you as the individual have to pay 20%. Plus you pay a monthly premium. So it's a cost share. Remember I said Social Security pays for itself?
Yes.
Medicare is a cost share. So they're different. So when these politicians say, we can't afford these entitlements, number one, which ones are they talking about? And there are a lot more than Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. There's farm subsidies. There's all kinds of entitlements. But they tend to pick on those three that affect seniors the most. So Medicare B is a cost share. So you go to the doctor, the government kicks in 80%, and that does come from general revenue. You pay 20%, you buy a Medigap policy, and you pay a monthly premium. Then they added Medicare C, which there are those who wanted the private sector to compete. So the private sector is you join a Medicare Advantage plan. And those are private plans, managed care plans. And then they added Medicare D, which is the prescription drug benefit.
Well, I want to thank you, Laura. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Very easily. Two different ways. You're welcome to call me directly, which my direct line is 202-216-8349. You can always call the National Committee, 1-800-998-0181. Or you can reach us online, www.ncpssm.org. That's ncpssm.org. You can join us online. You can ask us questions online. We're always available.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And if you have any topic ideas, something you'd like to hear more about, or have any questions for me, you can reach me at seniorsolutions@gmail.com, and we'll see you next time.